Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson, a.k.a. Uncle Tex, a.k.a. Professor Tex. Know it's been a couple, but like I tell you guys, I really don't come on here unless, some really something to really sink your teeth into and talk about it. Doing a little draft stuff right now, trying to get ready for all that stuff. A lot of hoopla. I'm going to probably talk about that. I might do a couple of different shows today, so y'all guys go ahead and stay tuned. And whatnot, and I might have a few things, few tidbits to sit up there and throw out about the draft and some of this, all this over hype about certain quarterbacks and what quarterback can do this and how basically how quarterbacks can come from out of nowhere and don't really have much of a career, but then all of a sudden, college career, and all of a sudden they're top 5 draft pick and they're just because of a combine or something that they did at whatever pro day. But that's neither here nor there. One of the things I want to speak about, there was a time, and y'all bear with me, there was a time in Hollywood, right? 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, up to now, guys like Weinstein and all them other different guys, right? But back during this time, in the golden era of Hollywood, that they call it, 30s, 40s, 50s, and whatnot, where you had these studio heads, right? You had the studio heads and guys that ran things, right? That ran like Jack Warner from Warner Brothers and whatnot. Yeah, guys like him. You had people like even Howard Hughes, the eccentric Howard Hughes that ran certain things. You had guys like Louis B. Mayer. Harry Cohn was from Columbia. Louis B. Mayer, MGM. These guys were legendary guys. They ran shit. They could make or break your career. Put it that way, right? If you was gay, you were getting married and having a kid, right? If you needed to work and we wanted to put you on this grueling schedule, we was gonna pump you up with drugs and make you do your thing. You can take that back to Mickey Rooney, and I think what's old girl's name, Judy Garland, and them. They made people marry each other that didn't because it was about the business or it's about the wholesomeness. It's about wholesomeness, but in the meantime, you're doing all this debauchery in the background, right, and whatnot. And these guys were really big shot millionaires back during this particular time, right? And they ran everything. And one of the stories that was something goes back to that of a Harry Cohn, right? And Harry Cohn, this is back during the time when you had the great Sammy Davis Jr., who I found this out doing some research for this. 1957, making like $25,000 a week doing his shows and stuff like that, messing around in Vegas. That's like damn near $250,000 a week in today's. That's what it was like to have. That's just insane, right? But him and Kim Novak had this thing. They had a relationship, and she was an actress, I should say, and she's, I guess, known for that Vertigo movie, the Alfred Hitchcock stuff like that, right? She's still living to this day and everything. Now, I'm not no big Hollywood guy and stuff like that, but you guys bear with me because I think you guys pretty much on me and I'm going with this. So, long story short, though, that was, of course, taboo, right? That was, of course, taboo. Now, what ended up happening, what he wanted to do, because a cat like Harry Cohn, he had mob ties, right? So what he did when it became clear, what he ended up doing, he and his mob buddies was going to break dudes' legs. But what they settled for him to do was forcing him to marry a black singer by the name of Lorraine White, somebody that he never met. And that was a 1-year contract and everything and whatnot. And that was just what it was. And some of the other things I talked about earlier. Right, that's Harry Cohn. Louis B. Mayer, another big shot. Here was a story, right? Now, listen to this real closely. And this will tie into what's going on today, right now, right? So Mayer of MGM, they had this big shindig. It was the Wild West or whatever they called it or whatever. Big shindig. In fact, and they had invited a bunch of girls. And back during this time, getting girls 15, 16, 17 years old, that was the norm back then. This is 1937. Now this guys forget they spent $35,000-$40,000 on this big crazy party that they had because they made a bunch of profit, they made a bunch of money and whatnot. It would have bbeen like in today's economy, it would have been his party was so extra. It would have been like he spent $450,000 on that party. The girls were getting paid $7.60 that night for that night's work to hang out, moose around with these guys, the heavy hitters and whatnot around that because they had tons of people there. That was going to be for like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, like 150, almost like 100 and right at $150. This is for a bunch of teenage girls for the most part, teenage girls and girls up into their 20s or whatever the case may be. And this is what you're dealing with. That was back then. Don't try to look at me or text what you saying. I think that was just back then. That's just what they did then. That was nothing. That was nothing, and whatnot. And if you go look at a particular documentary called Girl 27, right? And it talks about a girl named Patricia Douglas. Her mother was a makeup person or whatever like that. She was an extra in a couple of movies and stuff. And she thought that maybe she could, do her thing and whatnot like that. So she wasn't going to go to the party, but my son could go to the party. She ended up going to the party. Long story short, all these Hollywood big shot, she gets raped. She gets raped by a big shot guy from out of Chicago, some big shot businessman that had a lot of business that he messed around with, did with Louis Mayer. Raped her and stuff like that. Raped her. A guy saw it. Shooed the other guy away and stuff like that. They got it because they had got her drunk, made her drink. Because she said, I didn't even drink. And that, and all this other kind of stuff. Shoot her off. The next day, she went to the cops the next day, told it and whatnot. It's a big sensational court case. It was this. A lot of people withdrew from it. Made her look like, and they asked her whatever happened to her. Well, we killed her. And it wasn't like they killed her in the sense of they killed her. They completely ruined her career. So she was never going to be in a movie. She was never, the woman, they ended up having an interview with her back, I think, in 2003 or 2004. At this time, she's like 80 some odd years old. Right? And so her life was ruined. Like she said, sex was never the same. Never had an orgasm. She said, went through different marriages and whatnot. The guy was paid, the guy that seen her that was supposed to come in and basically testify on her behalf. Like I said, Louis Mayer, MGM had them in their pocket. But 60 some odd years later, which would be, I forget what it ended up being, but her kids finally, the guy's kids, say, yes, he did see that and he did not come forward and whatnot. And I guess she ended up passing, I think in 2003, 2004 and whatnot, saying, but she said, I guess I did something back during that time. That's the key. See, the whole thing about that was that this young, at 15, because for one, she didn't even really want to be there, but she ended up going anywhere when all this stuff happened. So the next day she went to the cops and she kept going to the cops until she turned it into a case. Now they made her look like a little whore and everything like that or whatever. And literally ruined her career. Now it's like a lot of stuff come back on them other guys that did what they did, but you can read the article and check it out if you're really interested, which you're probably not. But the thing of it is, what I'm saying is that you had a 15-year-old that went, as soon as that shit happened the next day, because it was late, the next day went to the cops. And she went against him. Now, you could say she lost, but she did what any woman is supposed to do, any girl is supposed to do if something happens to her in that aspect. If you get touched or raped, especially you get raped and stuff like that, next day, not a year later, not fucking 2 years later, not 3 years later, not 20 years later, not 30 years later. Right then and there, the next day, that very time, or even with today's technology, you should be able to do something right then and there. Now, she went up against the heads and lost, but that was the thing. So they did that. Not coming years later after you've made your money and now you want to come back and talk shit and say, I did this and I did this, that, and the other. And I'm saying all this to say this. You look at them guys that I named, Warner, Mayer, right? Cohen, all those guys, and there's a ton of other guys and whatnot from that golden era of Hollywood and whatnot. And what those guys could do anything they wanted to do. They had people in their pocket, right? They would be considered billionaires back during that time. So now you have somebody like Deshaun Watson, right? Who all of a sudden, who you're sitting up there getting everybody away from him insofar as receivers, tackles, defensive ends, outside linebackers, all this. Then you send J.J. Watt down the road. What am I left with? And I told you guys a couple of so weeks ago that Michael Vick syndrome, and I don't know if I did a show on it or I do. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Michael Vick was going to be a draw, win, lose, a draw. The thing of it is this, right? These guys, these owners of these teams, They can make or break you. They already got investigators, people on you when you're coming out of college anyway, when they're getting ready to probably pay you this money and all this kind of stuff. They're getting ready to start doing X, Y, and Z anyway. Right? So they already got that. You even had some of these guys, even these Hollywood guys, they had bugs inside of different people's dressing rooms. One guy had a damn underground tunnel to go into them girls' dressing room because you had to sleep with them in order to do X1, in order if you want your career to go forward. Right? This is what it can. So what's the difference going on nowadays? So all of a sudden, Deshaun Watson, I want help. Now, he could have took some phone calls. They could have sat down and talked about it because you all getting paid and you still work for them. Right? But at the same time, that cuts both ways. But at the same time, it's just like, he say he's going to do what? Okay, I got something for him. Well, I'm not saying that's happening, but you can't put that past those guys. The same shit they was pulling back during this time, what makes you think they can't do that now? What makes you think they can't do that now? What makes you think they have not done that now? When a player gets out of if they say he's getting out of line, or as we say, getting out of pocket, right? Yeah, then all of a sudden, the irony of all that, and then all of a sudden, all this comes up. And one girl backtracks, say, no, it didn't happen. So it's still 21 other jokers. Then the one that they had up there, the first one that came out crying and all that, and this, that, and the third, she's crying and carrying on. And my father he can't even say Deshaun's name. That was his favorite player. He's a Texan fan, and this, that, and the other, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, here we go with this bullshit. And this was something that supposed to happen like 2 years ago, right? So this is my thing of the situation. I don't know what happened. Don't know what went on or whatever. There's nothing that was crazy that was going on. This is a money grab. This is a money grab, and I'm going to drag your name through the mud situation. This is what's going on now, right? Wasn't no rape, it wasn't no assault or nothing like that. It just like, you want to hold it, you want to stroke it or whatever. I guess that's what it needs to be. This is my thing here. Take it to a lot of players and whatnot. If you got Jim Rocco in the damn dress, he's the one that gives guys massage. These guys get the massage or whatever, and I'm just using that name as a whatever. Got that. Right? That's what you get. That's what you get. That's business stand, whatever. Like all your pleasurable type stuff. If you want to get that milking, if you trying to get milked, all right, happy endings and milk, then you need to go sit up there, go talk to somebody like Jay Prince, Bun B, or whomever you need to talk to. Because you're the face of the franchise, so you can pretty much go where you want to go. If you want porn, whatever, but go into that world over that when you're trying to get milked or get that particular type of massage. Because these young ladies and people in general, but it's definitely these young ladies nowadays, this right now is a pandemic with this whole sexual assault thing. Left and right and left. Every day is somebody because it's a money grab at the end of the day. I'm not saying all these guys are innocent, but I'm not going to sit up there and say all those guys are guilty. Because a lot of these young women, I've had this conversation with people over the past few years, right? I'm not going to say out for a money grab. They trying to get a quick buck. Everybody trying to get a quick buck. And the easiest quick buck you can get, especially when it comes to women, I can sit up there and say, he did this to me. And you're going to believe me because I'm a woman. I'm a damsel in distress. That, you know what I'm saying? That's where it's at now. That's what's going on right now. And they're playing that freaking card. And in the midst of that, but you're dragging, especially if it's wrong, you're going to drag that man's name through the damn mud and whatnot, and you're trying to ruin his reputation. Now, say none of that stuff comes out that it even happened. What happens to her for doing that fall? She gets to just ride off into the sunset as if nothing happens and probably wait for the next sucker. So guys like Deshaun, they have to be smarter than that. But at the same time, what makes you think these big shot moguls, these guys are billionaires? If they get pissed off and mad at you, they don't want you. They can sit up there and whiteball you or whiteball you out of the damn league. That punter, that black punter that used to punt because he was always kind of quirky and talk a little stuff or had certain things to say. He was all pro second team a couple of years ago and whatnot. I thought he was going to be with John Gruden. He was over at Denver and everything. He had a little show and all that. Now he's on the internet. He's on Twitter. Like before I just go to put this to rest. What is it that I did? Why isn't nobody checking for me? That's what they can do. So don't put this, in other words, my point is this. Don't put what you saw with Girl 27 with Louis B. Mayer, Harry Cohn, Jack Warner, those guys, how they ran shit back during that time. What makes you think these NFL owners, NBA owners, MLB owners, NHL owners, They with those players, if they want to sit up there and rule them like that, and they can. And can literally excommunicate them out the damn league if they want to. You follow what I'm saying? They can do that. And just the way that was going down with Deshaun, and like all of a sudden now, even the Russell Wilson thing is still talking about. I said, Russell Wilson, and I told you guys, you mean to tell me, out of all the stuff, Russell Wilson, he says one thing, and then all of a sudden it's trade talk. Just like that, in a twinkling of an eye. And Deshaun Watson, all this stuff, because now all of a sudden these broads come from out of nowhere. Come on, man. And those guys can do that. And they can get these women to sit up there and do all this other BS to get them to say, oh, he did this, oh, he did that, he did this, he did that. Now, if he did it, he's going to have to deal with that. He's going to probably shell out some money or whatever like that. NFL going to snap him on the damn wrist, suspend him for 4 or 5 games and whatnot. And that's going to be like, because right now he's in a bad dream. But this is what we're talking about right now. This is the kind of stuff that's happening day in and day out for these guys and whatnot. And you know what I'm saying, and whatnot. But don't put past that NFL owners can be just like that. Like Hollywood of past years and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? That did whatever they wanted to do and could ruin your career if they want to, if you did not conform to what they felt that you should conform to. I get it at times. Hey, man, just, do this, that, the other. Whatever. Fine. But this just comes down to the point of just like, dude, I'm trying to win. I simply need some. What are we doing? Yeah, you gave me this money, but hell, what's the use of having this money? I'm set, but I'm like, if we're winning 5 and 6 games, we going 5 and 11. What's the freaking point? And that's all that man said. That's all he wanted. Yeah, he could take the phone call. They could sit down like adults and talk. But to go to the whole other side, and you ladies, when these things happen, I have a daughter. And I say, I'm not, I don't hear that shit. No, something happens, you go to the goddamn cops that night, no longer that next day. Don't come to me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years later. That's bullshit. Now you're playing games. Now you're just trying to fuck over somebody. At the end, you're trying to fuck over somebody. And you're going to ruin this man's fucking career. Ruin his life. Right? Because y'all basically did a wham, bam, thank you, man. And he said you can, hit the door. Let the door not hit you where the good Lord split you at. And now you mad. Well, that's all it was going to be any goddamn way. And then you're mad. And then you make up lies and insults, shit like that. So, young ladies, do your part. If these guys are out of pocket, you sit up there and handle that business right then and there. Go file a fucking report. I don't believe you until you file a fucking report. But until then, these owners, hey man, but tell you guys, you better watch them. But this is what you're up against. When you speak your mind, this guy just wants to win. He didn't say nothing crazy. He says, where's the loyalty at? And this is what all of a sudden is. I'm just saying, deal with the coincidence shit. He says that, then all of a sudden these broads come from out of fucking nowhere. You can't tell me. Come on, man. Come on now. Shit. All right. Hey, man. Gotta hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, man. We're going to try to do some growing coming up, man. Finally getting ready to kind of get there, man. You just got to work with them. I got 300 subs the other day, which is cool. Real solid. Because this is just a hobby. I never looked at it to do anything else. Blow some steam off, and we talk some football and shit, man. And but I think I want to take it to that next level. But any suggestions, leave them down there in the box for me. I'm always open to that. And I'll probably be back in a few minutes, man. I didn't really want to go this long, but I've been wanting to do this show for the past couple of weeks and just hadn't had the time to get it done. And I'll probably be back a little bit later. I tell you guys all the time, there's no greatest of all time as long as time's still going on. And like I tell you guys all the time, numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. You guys have a good one.